Hi everyone, it's Jen. I think this is the third time that I'm recording this video, so hopefully I've got everything turned on. Just thought I would go ahead and make an update for my progress this past week. It's been a little bit of a rough week, I'm not gonna lie. I've been a little bit stressed, a little bit under the weather, feeling congested, feeling tired, but I still got a fair amount of work done. So as you can see on the screen here, I made a little mini map for the player to be able to better track where they're at, especially when they're getting like popped in and out of combat. I made a boss encounter, so that's kind of why I'm parked like right outside this like one room. If I go south here, I've got a little bit of limited voice acting to kind of just like set the tone of the conversations. And we'll go ahead and confirm this. Did have to go in here and add some extra coding for the enemy to have elite units that can do skill triggers as well as the player.
Double bonus.
And because this this party that I am fighting against has those skill triggers, it makes this encounter potentially a bit challenging. Although I've been finding that I've been able to defeat it usually 50-50, so not too bad. For most of this dungeon, there hasn't been any penalty for losing, because the regular penalty for losing in this game is the wager system, losing money. But since there's no betting introduced yet, there hasn't been any penalty up until this point. But when you do lose against this boss encounter, he teleports you back into the dungeon a few spaces. So not completely to the beginning of the dungeon, but probably far enough so that it's a little bit annoying. And then it just kind of goes into this dialogue so that you have a chance to kind of speak with the characters, potentially recruit. And then you can see it's at the end of this map here. So once you go south from here, you complete this area and move on to like the next major chapter part of the story. So with this mini map, it was one of the kind of like fastest maps I've ever thrown together yet. And I think functionally it works pretty good. I used this little map that I made for reference, that I kind of just created when I was first creating this dungeon, and I used it to reference my my location declarations here. So this part is like what is north, south, east, and west that you can move. So you can see here dungeon location 1. The only place we can move is south. That's because I was looking at this blueprint that I made that here's dungeon location 1, and you can only go south from dungeon location 1. The mini map itself is only made up of 3 images, so it's pretty light. You basically have your map, which is just a semi-transparent PNG. It's like a rectangle that a white rectangle that I like exported at like 30%. And then I have the compass there to just kind of show players the north, west, east, south. It's going to remain consistent throughout the game, but just like reference there for the player so there's no confusion. And then we have these conditional little like boxes that if their location is currently true, it's going to be this highlighted box here. And then if they if they have visited a location at least once, it's going to be that gray box. So you can see here in comparison, like I have these locations like R21, R28, R29, R32. And you can see that those boxes are missing on this mini map because I haven't visited them yet on this playthrough. but if I were to, then they would appear as these gray boxes. So it's a revealing map that as the player moves, it keeps track of where they've been, but it doesn't like give them the entire layout of the place right from the start. This is probably one of the fastest maps I've made yet. I think I mentioned earlier. I made this little like cheat sheet for myself because each one of those little boxes is 40 pixels wide by 30 pixels tall. And so when I was programming the locations, I didn't have to arbitrarily just guess what the X position and Y position was, because I knew, like in RenPy, when you go from west to east, you're adding to the X coordinate, and when you are going from north to south, moving down the screen, you are adding to the Y coordinate. So if I had a room adjacent to another room, if it was to the east, I would just add 40 pixels to that X position, and then if I had a room that was south, I would just add 30 pixels to the Y position. So it was a really fast map, but I think that it turned out well. It turned out functionally just what I needed to be, and yeah, I would highly recommend it for anybody who's making something similar to what I'm making. Which just gets me down to the last point that I wanted to make. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I was having kind of a rough week, but I still got a decent amount of stuff done because I try to always have a wide variety of different tasks on my plate that I can sample from at any time, depending on my mood and my energy. So because I come from an animator background, things like animating these very limited animated sprites is pretty easy for me, probably similar to like a carpenter, like hammering nails, or a somebody knitting while they're like watching TV. I would save these tasks for like when I can just like zone out to like a podcast or maybe talk to a friend on Skype while I'm doing this animation. And so there are still sprites that I need to work on, but I didn't make all the sprites at once, even though I enjoy making sprites, because I'm saving that task for a rainy day. Some of the more, I guess, tasks that take more of my willpower, more of my motivation, that take more of my mental bandwidth, that I have to be kind of in the mood or feeling like energized, rested, excited to work on, would be more like the scripting of dialogue. For whatever reason, I find that part really exhausting. Doing new designing new things that I've never done before. These are the types of tasks that really need to happen. At some point, if I were to just like do all the tasks that that are kind of easy for me to do, even when I'm not motivated, and I would eventually get to the point where it's like, okay, I ran out of the tasks that I can do that are kind of brainless tasks for me, and now I'm stuck. And this is when I think projects get like shoved onto hiatus, is because like creators get stuck at a part where they're lacking the motivation to like forge on ahead at a challenging part, and they ran out of all the little smaller tasks. And those smaller tasks are really important to keep us on track and working on our project a habit. So I really try to work on my project every day, even when I'm not feeling well, even if it's just like doing something as like dumb as just like, I need to move this map over like 5 pixels because it's bugging me or something, and so I have to go through like every single one of these whatever these things are, and like shift them over 5 pixels or something like. And that was my task for the day, but it keeps me in the habit of working on my project. And I think for an indie developer who's just kind of doing this for fun, it's a really important part of my everyday to keep me thinking about the project, to keep me working on it, even if it's at a really small capacity. So don't let yourself get to a spot where you're stuck on a challenging problem. Try to always have like those small tasks available. And if you are feeling energized, healthy, don't do small tasks, don't do easy tasks, do the challenging tasks when you're up for it, because you are definitely going to have a lot of rainy days up ahead that you can just like plug through those easier tasks for yourself. And what those easy tasks are varies like from person to person. So yeah, that is my little tip of the day, and hope you guys are all having a good 2023, and thanks for watching, and don't forget to enjoy the process. Take care. Bye bye.